What's going on, everyone? This is Coach D. Yes, I am here with my mask on. I am at a hotel, and this is required that in the lobby that you have your mask on. So hope you can hear me okay. I don't think there's going to be much of a problem. I was supposed to do this a long time ago. I usually do this at 10 in the morning, but I had meeting on top of meeting on top of the meeting and could not get to it. And I shared with everyone who watches this work that we're doing that there will be times because of the schedule. And I only have about 15 minutes today where we're going to only have, we're not going to be able to go at the time we allocated. And we're going to be able to have to shift the time. So I just want to do something because the other day we had a conversation on we were talking to workforce development professionals. We were talking about why the need for racial equity in workforce development. And there was something in that presentation that I shared that I want to kind of share with general audiences. So this won't take much time. This is not going to take much time. I just want to share this with my mask on because I am in the hotel lobby right now. And with the hopes that this information will be helpful when it comes to this topic of racial equity. As you can see, I've been doing a lot of work on recently, just trying to um, educate people regarding this topic, because what's happening is a lot of times we have people who have a different perspective of this, and we just want to give a unique perspective that could be of benefit. So let me see if I can pull up these slides from this presentation that I was doing, and I'll explain to you what this means and what it looks like, because it could be a little bit, unique and um, for folks who aren't familiar with what I'm about to talk about. But a lot of times when we talk about racial equity, what you hear from some people is that, there's just this concern. I'm not saying with everyone. There's this concern that something's going to be taken away from somebody. It's going to impact um, someone's economic status or things of that nature. And so, what I'm attempting to do in our presentations is I'm attempting to talk about. Let's look at the reality of situations and scenarios that we are familiar with, where racial equity was embraced, and what the outcome was as a result. And again, I am in a hotel lobby, so sorry for all the background noise. I have no control over that. So, so here's the thing. Let's look at baseball. Now, years ago, baseball, this is what it was. You had the Negro leagues and you had the major leagues. And in both cases, the Negro leagues and the major leagues, okay, in the Negro and the major leagues, what you had was a scenario where these players played for the love of the game. They literally played for the love of the game. They didn't have the kind of, it's just the love of the game. They didn't make a lot of money. They didn't make a many of them had part-time jobs. There wasn't a lot of impact on the social economy because it wasn't like that much money was making it through the sport. And so again, these players just played because of the love of the game. It's not because they got rich in any stretch of the imagination. And so when baseball was players who were paid so few dollars that most of them had part-time jobs. It was America's pastime, but did live very little for the economy of the city or state. It was 100% Caucasians, and Negroes played their own league. That's what they called it back then, the Negro League. We don't use those terms anymore, but that's what it was used back then. All right. Now, keep in mind, for those of you who are just jumping on board, what I'm trying to communicate here, because a lot of times you'll hear when it comes to racial equity. All right. When you hear racial equity, you'll hear people going to lose something financially. What I'm about to prove is when racial equity is embraced, what happens. Okay. Now, some people will say, when they've heard me share this, say, Coach, this is a little bit of a stretch. But the reality is it's not a stretch, because we're going to see in just a moment. So many years later, you had this player, this coach, owner. His name was Branch Rickey. And what Branch Rickey said was, you know what? It's time to stop this. We're going to, This Negro League and Major League Baseball, we need to get great athletes to be able to play the game. That's all it's really about. Doesn't matter the color of their skin, just great athletes. And if you're just coming on board, I'm at a hotel lobby, so I'm sorry I got my mask on because I got to wear my mask and share this. But what you had was, it was just that was the situation, that was the scenario. And so Branch Rickey said, listen, it's time to integrate sports. It's time for us to let Black players play this game in the major leagues. And so and if you watch the story, it's pretty interesting because Jackie came into his office one time and was really complaining about the harassment that he was getting from people because of the potential of him playing pro baseball. And Branch Rickey said, well, you think you're being harassed? And he opened his drawer and he looked at it and said, well, you know what? Those are the death threats that I got last week. So he kind of put Jackie in check because he's saying, you complaining about your threats, man. You have no idea what they're saying to me. But despite the fear of rejection, despite what his family probably thought, despite what his fellow general managers thought, all of that, he decided to bring Jackie. I think he started him in the minor leagues, then he moved him to the major. And the whole scope of baseball changed from that point forward. Black athletes were allowed in, Hispanic athletes were allowed in, all kinds of athletes were allowed in. And baseball went from this sport that where people were doing part-time jobs, okay, all right, to this sport where now it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Millions in tax revenue to cities and states. Black and brown athletes contributing to their families and communities. And equal opportunity based upon, this is important, talent, not race. Equal opportunity based upon talent, not race. Now, we still got some work to do on the coaching and managing side. But the reality of it is that baseball used to be the sport where folks had to have part-time jobs. It was zero impact on the economy of the local area. It was 100% Caucasian athletes. And it changed, and as a result of accepting and embracing, the industry itself prospered, the athletes prospered, the cities prospered, and the communities has prospered. Sports provides us with something people don't even look at. It's one of the greatest, literally the greatest examples of what happens when racial equity is embraced. Imagine if Branch Rickey was not allowed to do that. Baseball would probably still look like it did in the 30s. You see, because Black and brown athletes were able to bring their unique talents. Willie Mays and many others, Satchel Paige, were willing to bring their unique talents to the game and bring a nice spin to the game that made it really exciting. Really exciting. Okay. So that's one scenario. Let me paint another one. When racial equity is embraced, and I hope corporations and businesses and business owners and CEOs who are looking at this, listen to what I'm saying, because the fear is you're going to lose something. And what I'm trying to say is you're not going to lose anything. You're going to gain. That's the power of racial equity. When you allow people to use their talents and gifts, it can actually accelerate what we're trying to do instead of holding it back. All right. And so let's take a look at this. Now, this is going to be one y'all going to love. That was the Los Angeles Lakers back in 1950. Okay. That was the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay. The world champion Lakers. All right. And those of you who are basketball fans and were around back then, the game was simply run up the court, set shot, throw it in the basket. Run up the court, set shot, throw it in the basket. You may have about 600 or 700 people attending, played in high school stadiums and all kinds of stuff like that. But that was the world champion Lakers. And as you can see, there was that one person on there, that one guy in the middle, maybe, I don't know, that was a person of color. Because again, Black athletes weren't allowed in professional sports, in basketball. Okay. And so again, we're talking about racial equity. I'm not going to talk to you long because I got to go myself. I got some things we need to get done. But I want you to see this. And so back in the 50s and 60s, they started allowing these dudes to come in. Some of y'all know who they are. That's Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And then in the 50s was Bill Russell and I think a few others. I can't remember all the names. All right. But that's what it was in the 60s, and 50s and 60s. And then now, my goodness, what is basketball today? My friends, $1 billion industry, millions in tax revenue to cities and states, Black and brown athletes contributing to their families and communities, equal opportunity based upon talent, not race. What am I trying to say? A lot of people are struggling with racial equity. We talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. But what I'm trying to say to you is simply this, and this is just sports, using sports as a scenario. Many times when we give people the opportunity to maximize their potential, no matter what the color of their skin, they could bring something to the table that would take things to a whole nother level. Now, for people who had the challenges with the economic piece, keep this in mind. These athletes have made these team owners billions of dollars. Hear what I'm saying. None of these athletes made billions except for Michael Jordan and a few others. But, and maybe LeBron now, I think he may be up in near that amount. But the owners of these teams have made hundreds, trillions probably since this happened. And what I'm trying to say is I just wonder if they would have made those trillions if it wasn't for allowing these athletes to come play the game. Because keeping back in the 50s, it was set shots. These dudes are jumping from a half court and dunking. You see, totally different scenario. And the point I'm trying to make is simply this, that when you give people a chance, the beauty of what we're seeing is when you give people a chance based upon talent alone, all right, you'd be surprised sometime that what you can see, what could be the benefit to a company or organization or business or, education system. And, I know some school districts that say they can't find, black teachers. I'm like, you're not looking hard enough. There's a ton of them out here, and what they could bring to the table as far as helping students or corporations and executive level. We're hearing a lot of the first African-American for this and the first African-American for that 400 years later, 350, whatever it is. And what I'm trying to say is why all these years later are we saying that? What would happen if more industries were like sports? Now, again, we got some problem with the coaches and some problem with the manager because we don't see it much there. But the reality is this is a model we can look at. When we give people an opportunity, you see what I'm saying? Based upon talent. Hey, Patricia, how you doing? I think you may have seen this because we did this the other day, but I'm kind of bringing it to the general public right now. And because we were looking at it from a workforce perspective, now we're just looking at it in general. And so what I'm sharing this to say that if we can start understanding that if we allow people to maximize their potential based upon talent, that could be a door opener for so many opportunities for all races. In the Black community, when there's equal access to education and equal access to there was something here's the page. Okay. Equal opportunities for careers, then everything changes. There's economic benefits. People who make more money have more resources to contribute. There's community benefits. When people are allowed to maximize their potential equally, their community changes. Okay? The community changes. The community becomes more focused on progress and development and things of that nature. And we've seen it in a lot of communities. You see it in the Asian community. You see it in the Jewish communities. You obviously see it in the Caucasian communities. I want to see it more and more Black communities, more brown communities, that we can see these development taking place because of opportunity. All right? Because of opportunity. The nation as a whole benefits when this happens. And then family benefits. Families that are allowed to maximize their potential create generational impact. So like I look at my kids, and my kids are, all college and college bound, or I graduate from college and are in school on their way to college, because once the door was open for me to do what I'm allowed to do, and my wife to do what she was allowed to do. She's an engineering degree from North Carolina A&T. And, she's not doing that anymore, but she's doing some neat stuff, helping young people. The reality is that generational impact now impacts our kids and their ability to see the bigger picture. And so when I think of racial equity, that's our slice of the pie. You can see this book that I'll be releasing in about 30 days, hopefully. But our hope is that this becomes a norm in our society because of what it does positively for our society, what it does positively for our communities, what it does positively. And when people would stop really fearing the possibility of loss, because I know I'm not saying that's everyone out there, because I know that's not what, and I'm not even trying to communicate that everyone out there doesn't embrace this, that doesn't look like us. There's millions of Caucasians that embrace this. I know, because we consult and train and we see it. And then also just in general friendships. But what I am trying to say, there's a lot of people out there that's still trying to hold on to a certain traditional way of seeing things and think that this is the way it should be. No, we should start looking at America as America. If you live here, if you're born here, if you're raised here like I was, all right, and many others, give equal opportunity to maximize your potential. That changes everything. So sports is a scenario that we can look at and say, you know what, if you can grab that ball and you can dunk and you can jump and you can read the playbook and all of that, you know what, there's a spot for you here. But in that corporation, you've been here for 20 something years and you've learned all these different departments and the people love you and you got a good relationship, why not now become that senior level executive or maybe president, of that company, or in school districts, superintendents. And I met this guy several years ago, said he was the first African-American superintendent in the state of Kentucky. I said, the first. He said, yes, the first. And that was only 7 years ago. And I'm saying, why not be given an opportunity to maximize your potential? Because look at all the benefits when we do it this way. So I'm not going to do much because, I'm kind of late doing this anyway. We're going to do this earlier in the day. But I'll put my website in here. If anybody want to, have a conversation about this, we can. You can just visit me at my website and reach out to us. You know what I mean? And this is what we do. I mean, this is a big part of our work. We do a lot of work in workforce development, education, motivation, and things like that. And that's my email address. But here's the thing. And keep in mind, all these videos we do are shareable. You can share these with your friends and community and organizations. So, if you think this is advantageous and beneficial, share it. But the reality is, here's the thing. This is the thing. Look at the benefits. We don't talk about that much. And in sports has proven it to us. Those athletes set up scholarship funds and they do all kinds of things for their community and help people and all of that. Why? Because they were given the chance to maximize their potential. My hope in our work is to see this, and not just in that industry or entertainment industry, but all industries, where we're seeing racial equity, which is equal opportunity in career and life. That's all equity is all about, equal opportunity. That's going to be a benefit to our country, obviously a benefit to the Black race, but to our country as a whole. So thank you so much for your time. I hope this information is helpful, and we'll see you again next week. We're actually doing another event again on this topic on Thursday at noon. It's like a lunch and learn. So join us Thursday at noon, and we'll have some information for you as well regarding this topic. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.